Welcome to this explainer on the importance of national income. Think of us as your chief economic advisors today, because we're going to show you how these statistics are absolutely not just boring rows of static data. They are literally the ultimate navigation system for an entire nation's future. It's the ultimate diagnostic tool for checking a country's health and wealth. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to move fast, covering the macroeconomic dashboard, the circular flow of wealth, decoding GDP and GNP, the 3 ways to measure it all, a really cool concept called the green GNP twist, and finally, we'll expose some major measurement blind spots. Let's jump right in. Section 1. The macroeconomic dashboard accounts for the economy and economic planning. Imagine trying to govern a country without data. It'd be like driving down the highway completely blindfolded. National income data is basically a giant panoramic mirror reflecting our entire economic performance. Back in 1949, the National Income Committee, led by brilliant minds like P.C. Mahalanobis, built the foundation for this mirror. They defined a national estimate as measuring the volume of commodities and services turned out during a given period, counted absolutely without duplication. They took this chaotic ocean of billions of daily transactions and turned it into a rock-solid, measurable indicator of our economic welfare. So why does this matter to us today? Well, modern policy designers use these exact aggregates to frame our biggest national policies. We're talking about deciding on taxation rates, figuring out employment strategies, and sparking industrial development. Before launching any major reform, policy architects actually plug these essential numbers into advanced economic growth models. They test different scenarios to see what works, effectively guiding our nation's trajectory based on hard, objective data. Moving to Section 2, the circular flow of wealth, exposing structural income distribution. If you really want to understand wealth distribution and the real-world economic gaps between different interest groups, you have to track the continuous orbit of money across society. We model this flow by starting super simple, a 2-sector economy with just households and business firms. Then we add a layer of complexity with a 3-sector economy, bringing the government into the mix. And finally, we arrive at the full 4-sector economy, which captures the reality of the foreign sector and global trade. Let's look at the 2-sector model because it perfectly captures the fundamental engine of our economy. Notice how the factors of production, things like land, labor, capital, and enterprise, flow straight from households down to the firms. In return, money flows right back up to the households as rent, wages, interest, and profits. Households then turn around and use that exact income for consumption expenditure on the goods and services the firms just made. It's a continuous, beautiful loop of economic life.
All right, Section 3, decoding GDP and GNP, the alphabet soup of economic indicators.
You hear these terms thrown around on the news constantly, right? Global bodies use them to compare the performance and growth rates of different nations, but the crucial distinction between GDP and GNP really just boils down to one thing: boundaries versus people. Gross domestic product, or GDP, measures the value of everything produced strictly inside our domestic boundaries. Gross national product, GNP, takes that GDP and adds our net income from abroad. So GNP is tracking the value generated by our residents, even if they earned that money overseas, minus what foreign residents earned inside our borders. Okay, don't let the algebra freak you out. This is literally the master equation of macroeconomics. Y, which is our total national income, simply equals C, private consumer spending, plus I, the investments made by businesses, plus G, which is government spending on things like infrastructure, plus X minus M, representing our exports minus our imports. It's just a brilliantly elegant summary of a nation's entire ledger. Section 4, 3 ways to measure. The literal mechanics of counting everything. So think about this for a second. How does a country actually calculate these massive trillion-dollar numbers without accidentally double counting every single raw material? Well, economists attack this monumental task from 3 distinct angles. First, the output or product method, which sums up total production. Second, the income method, adding together all those factor incomes we talked about. And third, the expenditure method, tallying up all societal spending. Countries usually use a combination of these just to cross-check their math. Let's see the output method in action because it's fascinating. To avoid dangerously inflating the data, economists use a value-added approach. We strictly track only the new value created at each stage. So it's 150 rupees for the raw cotton, 100 for spinning it into yarn, 150 to weave the cloth, and a final 100 to stitch the shirt. And boom, that gets us to our final value, 500 rupees. This perfectly illustrates why the value-added method is so crucial. If we had just lazily added the final sales values of the cotton, yarn, cloth, and the shirt all together, we would have recorded over 1,000 rupees. That original batch of raw cotton would have been counted 4 separate times. Talk about a math disaster.
Moving on to Section 5, the green GNP twist. This is where economics meets sustainability. As policy architects, we eventually have to face a really uncomfortable complication. Does producing more stuff actually equal a better quality of life? Think about it. If a country rapidly increases its industrial output, but totally destroys its natural resources and fills its air with toxic smog in the process, is the citizens' real standard of living actually going up? A traditional GNP metric completely ignores that reality.
To fix this glaring issue, economists introduced a concept called green GNP, and it's a total game changer. It literally subtracts the costly burden of environmental degradation from our economic achievements. Mathematically, it's your standard GNP minus the depletion of natural capital and the pollution load. It gives us a far more honest indicator of sustainable development and true economic welfare. Green GNP basically forces us to balance the literal stack of coins we're generating against the smokestacks we had to build to get them. It ensures that our definition of economic success actually promotes long-term survival for future generations, not just a short-term cash grab at the planet's expense.
Finally, Section 6, measurement blind spots. What the numbers completely miss.
Look, even with cool upgrades like Green GNP, our macroeconomic dashboard still has some massive conceptual blind spots. Because our strict data models only capture formal monetary exchanges, a huge amount of human activity is just entirely ignored. Sure, wages, land rents, and corporate profits are counted perfectly, but unpaid household services, caregiving, underground illegal markets, transfer payments like pensions or charity, completely left off the ledger. They are totally invisible to state planners.
Which leaves us with a highly provocative question to wrap up on. Can we truly claim to understand a nation's welfare if our ultimate navigation system entirely ignores the unpaid labor that literally holds society together? As we architect the economic policies of tomorrow, how do we finally upgrade our metrics to count the invisible forces that truly sustain our world? It's an amazing challenge for the next generation of economists. Thanks for joining us for this explainer. We'll see you next time.